I feel like crap, and I got some kind of bug. It's okay. I took 2 days. Well, actually, I started getting sick Saturday, so it's been like 4 days of this NyQuil haze, and I'm watching this meeting last night going, am I really seeing this, or am I high? Which is it? Am I high? Or is this really going on? I don't know.
It was very retro Ottawa County.
I don't. Are we rolling? Oh,
Of course we are. He always likes to trick us.
Remind me to tell you about the porn bill. Just I have all these notes here, okay?
That'll wake me up.
Okay. I'm Mary Ellen Murphy from WGHN Radio.
And I'm Sarah Leach with the Ottawa News Network.
And this is Two Jays in a Pod. And we are the Jays.
Hi.
Hello. I like your sweatshirt. The Lions.
Go Lions.
Go Lions. Do we want to start with national news, or we probably should start with county news because a lot happened at that meeting last night?
Yeah, I think that's the most, that's the peak coherency that you're going to get from me after that long meeting last night.
With the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners, and I know that they're coming fresh off of a weekend up at Mackinac Island with the GOP. So what was that new phrase that he uses now? What's it called?
Colorblind equality.
Okay, because I know he must have picked that up on Mackinac Island because he's never used that phrase before. Colorblind equality. Okay, what does that mean?
And it's a term that a lot of these think tanks use, and it's an approach that suggests that by ignoring racial differences, society can eliminate prejudice and discrimination. So it is sort of the counterpoint to abolishing DEI. Kind of references some of the early things that we were taught, like in the 50s and the 60s during the civil rights movement about, you shouldn't see any color, you shouldn't see any creed, we should all be in the same class, and yada, yada, yada. I think that it's using it in a way that wasn't necessarily intended, but that's where that originates from.
Okay. So let's start with the meeting. Waterman's contract was approved.
Yeah, eventually. I mean, boy, I thought that was going to be the least interesting part of this entire conversation, but it took forever.
Why?
I think that there's a lot of distrust between the Ottawa Impact members on the board that are now in the minority. So, you got like this small far-right faction, and then you've got the moderate Republicans that are in the majority, and then you got the one Democrat. And when you have a coalition like that, there are a couple of, you can be civil. There's a couple of things that you might be able to agree on and a couple of things that, you might find consensus in. But, I mean, in this sort of political environment, and especially what's happened in Ottawa County in the last couple of years, you're not going to have a whole lot of trust. So everyone was sort of advocating for what they felt most distrustful about. For Commissioner Doug Zylstra, who's the one Democrat, he was worried about the expansive hiring and firing powers that the contract would have allowed had it been passed as proposed.
Right.
That was then watered down, and there seemed to be some consensus about, maybe we should think ahead beyond the person that we're putting into the position right now, which is always wise. Think about what this could be in with somebody who you might not necessarily support. Like, how would they use these sorts of powers?
Well, yeah, right. That was smart to think that way. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
So they addressed that. Then there was a lot of amendments from the OI commissioners where they were more concerned about, in the contract language, well, the board chair is allowed to do this and to confer with the administrator about that. And they don't like the fact that that is ceding a lot of control to the chair position. They would like that to remain within the body itself because they no longer control the chair position. So there was a bunch of amendments about that. And then, Moss was really adamant about, making an addition to insert in this talking point about DEI and being anti-DEI and being colorblind, and I don't think that he really explained his point very well. It just didn't seem to quite make sense because the law covers whatever the existing rules are for discriminatory practices and not allowing people to be able to use those practices in their employment. And so Corporation Counsel actually sparred with him a little bit. Ron Bolche was arguing with Moss a little bit about, well, why can't we just say just follows existing law? Because this is law that's evolving in real time, as we've seen with affirmative action, and then it was in, and then it was out, and and then DEI was embraced, and now DEI is on the out. So, I mean, why not just put in language that is flexible, where you don't have to revisit this every 5 minutes. And then, frankly, the the moderates on the in the majority were suspicious of why he was pushing so hard for this. And Josh Berger, Commissioner Berger, who's the vice chair, said, frankly, I would like to believe what you're saying at face value, but after the language that he used was, after you've torn apart several staff and I've watched what you've done over the past several months, I just don't buy it.
Right.
So that's where we're at as a board.
Okay. See,
That's before we started actually fighting.
I wanted to say that I thought that Commissioner Moss's tone, that he had kind of toned his tone down. Hear me out. Mm-hmm. He was on Mackinac Island with the GOP over the weekend, and that probably revitalized him. I'm thinking he's watched a lot of Charlie Kirk interviews. Hear me out. And I feel like last night he wasn't, how sometimes his cadence can be, well, there was none of that. And I thought, okay, maybe he's kind of toning it down a little bit.
Or maybe he's preparing for greener pastures.
Well, we know that. And I've heard several rumors about that he's going to throw his name in for something.
I would be shocked if he didn't.
Which is a big possibility, but that might be why the toning down and showing up on Mackinac Island and going to Grand Valley State University. Hey, I am all for college kids being engaged, but when I was that age, all I cared about was, where's the next party and what are my grades? No, honestly, I wasn't really engaged in politics.
I know.
Were you?
No.
I didn't care.
I mean, the most involved that I got into politics was we went so late on deadline night at the student newspaper because of hanging chads. I was like, what the fuck is a hanging chad? Who's Chad? So yeah, that was a quick education in a lot of things that year. But I think I mentioned this in my live tweet feed because I'm still a masochist and I'm still live tweeting these meetings.
Thank goodness you're doing that because I love it.
But I did sort of observe. I made an observation about the fact that Moss continuously visits GVSU and is talking about GVSU because it's not in his district, and so I find that particular interest a little strange. So it would make sense if he's potentially targeting that area to make some inroads so that he has some name recognition if he wants to maybe throw in his hat in the ring for some sort of state office.
Right. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking. Sylvia was out there as well. And I know there's
that is in her district.
That is in her district, so that makes sense. Yeah. And I know there is a vigil tonight, Wednesday evening at the Berlin Raceway, a Charlie Kirk vigil tonight at the Berlin Raceway. I wanted to mention that. All right. So here we are with Ottawa County. Patrick Waterman will start at the end of October. Can I ask you what was going on? There was something about farm on the Tapas on the farm, which is a great event. This is a great event, and I lived out Hey, I love farmers in the farming community. Don't get me wrong, I do. What is this? It's a great event that takes place in Ottawa County. They raise a lot of money. What was the issue with that, though?
It took me the entire meeting to figure out what this weird talking point was at the beginning of the meeting. So it started with Commissioner Allison Meidema. She is a member of Ottawa Impact. She was trying to get a discussion item added to the agenda about this event. And Chair John Teeple said, well, you know how I feel about last-minute agenda items because that's sort of throwing a little bit of shade back at the OI commissioners to say, this was a common practice that they did and gave the other board members little notice to prepare for talking points. So it gets voted down. And then I kind of forgot about it because we had other fish to fry. And
we did.
Because we haven't even gotten to the lawsuits.
No, I know.
But then we kind of hear a reference back to it when we're talking about Meidema has the floor several hours later, and she's talking about how she attempted to have this talking point put onto the agenda before the meeting happened, and then I think that it was Teeples who said, well, you didn't tell me, you didn't ask me, because she said the chair was aware that I wanted to talk about this at this meeting. We still don't know. I mean, as a casual observer, I still have no idea what they're talking about.
Right.
And so then there's sort of this bickering about whether or not administration knew and whether or not, Teeples knew, and he got a little bit annoyed with that. And then we fast forward to the end of the meeting and we get to the interim administrator's report, and Gary Rosema basically responds to that, all of these talking points that have led up to this, over several hours. And he says, I just need to address this. you never let me know that you wanted to have this as an item on the agenda until Thursday evening, I think, before the meeting. And I called you and I attempted to have a conversation to talk this through. And you said that you were busy, you had family time, you needed to ponder some information that I had sent over. You never reached back out. So we never had another conversation. I think it's disingenuous for you to now say at a public meeting that, essentially you were iced out of being able to have any kind of input on what we discuss at these meetings. And then Meidema goes on this speech where she says, well, there's drag queens. And I'm like, wait, there's drag queens at a tapas event? Like, what is happening? Like, I mean, kind of sounds cool, but but I still don't understand like why this was like this relevant talking point. And eventually you kind of piece together all of the information. It's not the Tapas event that is actually the controversial thing that she wanted to discuss. She wants to discuss a vendor who happens to be participating in that particular event, who happens to have a restaurant in Grand Haven that just happens to also have a different event involved in some sort of drag show brunch. That's it. That's the big reveal. And I'm like, wait. Okay, because now you're understanding like why the majority on the board is trying to like kind of maybe shut down some of these more social issue talking points because they just want to get the business of the county done, and then you kind of see the OI resistance because that's their bread and butter.
Right.
And so you're just seeing that tension back and forth, and they're trying to outmaneuver one another and using the processes and procedures of the county to do it.
Crying out loud. Do you think anybody attending that event would know that vendor, they would just be glad that vendor was there, because I believe you have to pay money to be a vendor.
I know.
So you're donating money to Ottawa County by being a vendor.
Well, but it's also the same talking point that we see recycled again and again and again, where we see, we're contracting with this third party that, has some sort of paragraph about how about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and so that means X, and so then they extrapolate this argument that the county should not have anything to do with anyone who's ever uttered this phrase. And I'm, where does this end?
Boy,
because
I don't know.
A lot of businesses and corporations and organizations put those kinds of language, bits on their websites or in their materials because at the time that was accepted practice, not necessarily because they're part of some sort of social movement.
Right.
And it just doesn't make any business sense. So we just kind of see a different way of getting this talking point in, and I think that the board majority is getting pretty exhausted with it.
Wow. In the lawsuits, I pulled some audio from Commissioner Jorritsma, and whoa, the lawsuits.
That was a lot.
I mean, I was, and I was in this NyQuil haze, and I'm like, is this really happening? What am I seeing here? That was interesting, the whole lawsuits. There were two of them.
There were two of them, but one is definitely more interesting than in the other. And no disservice to the Hill Sander lawsuit. I'm glad that that one is resolved. That was the FOIA-related lawsuit. Essentially, as we discussed last week, the judge found in the plaintiff's favor, did not award them attorney's fees. The county has opted to cover the attorney's fees as part of a settlement agreement because otherwise this would have ended up in the appellate court, and more than likely the plaintiffs would have been awarded attorney's fees because of the nature of the lawsuit. But more importantly, we're going to do a little bit of throwback because we had one major lawsuit that was filed in December of last year, and the plaintiff was Daniel Zimmer. And he actually was challenging three things that happened at a December 10th Board of Commissioners meeting, two severance agreements for former interim administrator Ben Wetmore and executive aide Jordan Epperson, and as well as the Crockery Lake contract with Chester Township. Now, as we remember, Chester Township Crockery Lake issue was spliced off earlier this year.
Yes.
That actually was decided on Monday.
Yes, it was.
And the county's contract has been invalidated in the courts, and so now the contract never existed, and so now we all just go home, and that doesn't happen.
Right.
So now we have the severance agreements. There was another settlement proposal that was in front of the Board of Commissioners last night. On the agenda, they were set to go into closed session, to take a vote to go into closed session, which requires a 2/3 majority vote. No one made the motion to go into closed session. And I immediately was like, wait, what's happening?
I know.
Because then I think it was, it might have been Brugger who made a motion to accept the settlement offer. And
It was Brugger.
I think I could see sort of the surprise on the OI commissioners' faces, and even Mr. Zylstra. I don't think that they anticipated a vote to go into closed session, and we've seen that OI has been resistant to go into closed session for just about every reason. So maybe this was a way to sort of just push the issue to let's skip to the end and just see if we're going to accept it. So then a very robust discussion starts about, Moss saying, I think we should fight this. Frankly, he has been implicated in some wrongdoing in terms of how these severance agreements were brokered. There's been lots of reporting by myself and others that we have had follow-up interviews with commissioners that were a part of that meeting who have said that they did not necessarily go into closed session in December for legal reasons. They didn't necessarily vote in a way that was in compliance with what they felt were good faith practices.
Is that why he didn't want to settle?
Well, I mean, I'm making that assumption. I think that's the most obvious conclusion. So one of the things that I found fascinating is that Commissioner Jorritsma said, I have some comments about this issue, but we haven't voted on it yet, so I'm just going to wait. And I remember Commissioner Zylstra saying, well, now's the time. I mean, because it's discussion and then vote, and then you move on to the next thing.
And then you move on, yeah.
So I'm just thinking, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And then, again, other fish to fry, and there were other things that we were talking about because we moved on to the Hill Sander thing. So at the end, when we're in commissioner comments, that's when Jorritsma then decides to address the thing about the Zimmer case, and he brings forth this narrative that apparently is a culmination of lots of different documents and reports that have been submitted to the county that allegedly implicate Joe Moss in trying to secure these payouts for these two employees in order to quash a human resources investigation.
Ew.
That potentially could have implicated him.
So where does this go from here?
Well, because the county ultimately, in a 7-4 vote, accepted the settlement terms, part of that agreement, one of the stipulations is that they release the closed session minutes, including the audio recordings of the two separate closed session sessions that they had for the Epperson and Wetmore severance agreements. So
Ooh.
I don't know exactly when we're going to get that. It's probably going to be after there's a court order because it has to be, because they're accepting the settlement, the judge has to take that, and then the judge will write that into the order and essentially order the county to disclose the minutes. But you have to wait for that entire process to work its way out. So it's a sort of a timing issue now.
Okay.
In the meantime, because Jorritsma referenced a lot of internal documents, such as a county, HR investigation. There's an affidavit from an attorney that allegedly started that HR investigation, then was ordered to stop the investigation by Moss, just days before they hadn't voted yet to sever him to Epperson from the county, as if he knew what was going to happen. So all of that, there's an affidavit that exists. So I FOIA'd for all of those documents. I'm sure other journalists and listeners and readers are doing that as well. But it's only a matter of time now until we fully know exactly what happened that day.
And then once we find out what happened that day, my question to you would be, does it even matter at this point?
Well,
Because
one of the most serious allegations that Jorritsma didn't directly say, but he heavily implied, he said that I think that this could have crossed the line into corruption or fraud. And if I'm reading the tea leaves in the way that he sort of framed this information that is known, is that this HR attorney that started to investigate this complaint last year provided a template for a severance agreement, but never actually completed, an actual agreement for a specific individual. Just a template was provided to Mr. Moss directly. Fast forward to the end of, this process, and now we're into right before the December meeting. Somehow that template just magically gets amended and edited to specifically cater to Mr. Epperson, and certain amounts are inserted in there. And this attorney did not have anything to do with it. He has asserted that he had nothing. He did not prepare it. He did not recommend it. And yet the allegation is that Mr. Moss, during that closed session for Mr. Epperson's separation agreement, asserted that this attorney did recommend it, did prepare it, and that the county had no other choice because they were facing too much liability. So you can see why that could have some additional repercussions beyond just interesting chatter at the water cooler.
Okay, but how? But to move forward on that, they'd have to open up an investigation.
I think that this I don't know. I'm not a criminal attorney.
Okay.
I don't know whether or not this rises to the level of potential fraud or violating any actual statutes. But I think that those questions are definitely going to be asked.
Wow, so much for moving forward. We're backpedaling here. And, I mean, honestly, if you think about it, I mean, wow. Okay.
Well, just wait until the Holland Sentinel lawsuit gets in front. Does anybody remember that one? That was one that I started.
No.
This was for the $4 million deal with Adeline Hambley that Moss kind of, went on a media circuit of his own.
Sure.
And asserted that the media had made up this false narrative that no $4 million deal existed with Adeline Hambley before the deal fell apart. Well, the Sentinel, when the judge took testimony from Justin Roebuck about that closed session, and that was back in, 23, she emptied the courtroom and did not allow the public or the press to be present. And so the Sentinel challenged that through the Michigan Press Association and is asking for that transcript to be released, which is supported by the plaintiff in that case, which also was represented by Sarah Howard. So I think that eventually when this gets before the county, there's probably going to be an inclination to release what happened in those meetings. They don't want any more questions hanging over them from the previous administration. The counterpoint to that is OI commissioners saying you're setting a terrible precedent, and Democrats, if they want less lawsuits, then they should stop suing us.
Yeah, I heard they brought
that
up,
was said last night by Sylvia Rhodey.
Yeah, and she mentioned Sarah Riley Howard. I think that might have been Allison Meidema.
But I will say in response that if you don't do anything that is potentially illegal, then I don't see how people could sue you.
There you go. Okay.
I mean, anyone can sue anyone for anything. But, I mean, within a matter of a couple of months, these, the things that actually have teeth don't drag on for 2 years.
Right. You're right. Wow. Okay. Wow. I mean,
you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. That's all that I can say about that. You take a calculated risk when you decide to buck the system and do things in an unorthodox way. You're going to have pushback and challenges. I mean, that's just the way that the world works.
Yeah, you're right. I had heard rumors that Commissioner Moss was going to make an announcement at the meeting. I'm hearing rumors that he's going to run for office. And there's a lot of that going out there right now.
Well, there's a lot of them up for grabs. You got Luke Meerman's seat. You have Roger Victory's seat. I mean, I guess he does have his choice of what he wants to run for.
Interesting. Okay. Wow. I don't feel very well.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. I in this whole.
Do you need some Tylenol?
Oh, please.
Can I just say that when I heard the thing about Tylenol, all I could remember was when I was pregnant for like 6 years with the 3 kids.
You were pregnant for 6 years.
So long. All I remember thinking was, and I had relatively easy pregnancies, but it was very frustrating when you catch a virus and you get sick, and you're wondering what you can take. Essentially, the answer is always Tylenol.
Right.
That's the only thing that they say that you're allowed to take because they're unwilling to test on pregnant women, which for obvious reasons I can see why they would not necessarily want to have a focused trial on that. But you're in a lot of pain and uncomfortable, situations already during that journey. You're taking the last thing that
I know.
I mean, you can't take ibuprofen. You can't take any kind of allergy medication. I was miserable when I got aches and pains and I got sick.
Yeah.
You're supposed to tough it out.
Yeah, supposed to pretty soon they're just going to give you like a stick to chew on so that you can rip that kid out of you. I'm just like, I mean, come on, man. It almost felt personal.
Well, it's just ridiculous. It really, really is. Women, we are not applauded for the things that we do to begin with. I still have guilt that my children were born 2.5 months early. Sometimes I think about that and I go,
Well, you
what?
had twins, of course.
I know.
Like, they're always born early.
What could I have done different when I was laying in a hospital bed for 6 months? This is how it is for women. We always feel guilty about stuff. The last thing we need is something like this. And what?
Well, and then to add on like this potential, you do not know anxiety until you are making a human inside of you.
Yeah.
Like no one. I'm sorry, men. I'm sure that you guys go through a lot in your own journey, but you just cannot understand the level of responsibility, the weight that is on your shoulders of making sure that this human gets into the world successfully and then beyond. And to think that I potentially would play a part in giving them, a very, very challenging medical condition that could affect them for the rest of their lives. Do not invoke fear when you do not know for sure what the hell you're talking about. We went through this in the 90s with that quack doc with the vaccines and the autism, and it took us 25. We're still purging that out of the medical vernacular right now in the history of science. And now we're just creating a whole new version of it. It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And how long did they spend
Did
on
we
this
not have
study?
enough problems?
3 months on this study? What was...
Oh, gosh, like that's such a huge body of work.
It's coming from the CDC.
Yeah, it's coming from the
please.
experts.
I don't trust Robert Kennedy Jr. at all. I'm sorry. All of his kids are vaccinated. All of his grandkids are vaccinated. All of Trump's kids are vaccinated. I'm certain Melania took Tylenol when she was pregnant and had a headache, okay? Enough. Enough. Did I ever tell you my story about running into Newt Gingrich on Mackinac Island?
What?
Okay. All right, this was
it during a conference or something?
This was the big GOP conference. This would have been the late 80s. I'm on my bike on Mackinac Island.
Were you just vacationing or were you there for the conference?
No,
Okay.
we were vacationing.
Okay.
First, we stayed at Wilderness State Park, and we could see the big jets flying over to land on Mackinac Island, and then we went to Mackinac Island. And I'm riding my bike. I got this bike, and I decide to go, to put both arms out, like, and just like kind of woo in the breeze. I don't even have my hands
You
on
were like Rose on the Titanic?
Okay, thank you. On this bicycle, and I'm going down a hill towards the governor's mansion, and there's Newt Gingrich, and I slam on my brakes. Oh, Mr. Gingrich, how are you? And he looks at me all startled, like, and he looks around like, where's my security detail? Who is this crazy lady? And here's
Stranger danger.
and the only reason why I knew who he was because I used to watch Real Time with Bill Maher on ABC.
Oh, interesting.
That's the only. And Newt used to go on a show all the time. That's
Yeah.
the only. I was not invested in politics back then.
Right.
And then fast forward 20 years later, we're on Mackinac Island with my twins, and they're about 2 years old, and we decide to go to Mass at St. Anne's Catholic Church. So we go all the way to the second to the last row, and all of a sudden there's a little bit of commotion, and there's John Engler and his wife sitting behind us. They don't have their triplets with them. I think they had triplets. They don't have their triplets with them. We have our twins. They're two. They're moving all over the place. My daughter takes a missilette and throws it right at Engler.
Oh my gosh, did it hit him?
Yeah. He just laughed. And then afterwards, they were like, it'll get easier. And, we introduced ourselves to them. And
Yeah.
They shook our hands. And they said, it'll get easier. Trust us. It gets a lot easier when they get older. But I just thought how funny that here we are with twins. My daughter throws this missilette at John Engler. And I'm mortified. But they laughed it off. So that's my Mackinac Island story. There you have it. Who paid for that visit up on Mackinac Island? And maybe it was the Ottawa County GOP might have paid for it. I don't know.
Yeah. Those things are a little messy sometimes.
Are they?
Because we did get some information about that flight / road trip to D.C. from a few months ago, and I guess they were set to fly, and then somebody got spooked about a plane crash somewhere, and then they had to drive the last minute. I don't know, but I think to the point of some of the discussion about the policy.
I'm sorry.
you all right?
I'm
over
all
there?
right. You think they stop at Buc-ee's?
Just going to shoot her eye out over there.
You think they stop at Buc-ee's?
Well, I'm just could we just have some ground rules about like what is appropriate for an elected official? I mean, like just have a process or like have
Yeah.
like set up like a little committee like they have for the like election the election board, like where if you want to file a recall petition or something like that, it goes it's like the prosecutor and the probate judge and the county clerk, and they and they just sort of evaluate. They're neutral people that don't have a dog in the fight. Why not just have a process that works that way so that they can evaluate what is political in nature and what is appropriate in terms of your representation as an elected official? Why not do it
Right.
that way?
Yeah.
Or have 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans, or I don't know, do us something. But I'm just kind of tired of who paid for them. Like, well, I've got a lot of FOIAs out right now, so I'll get around to
Yeah,
it.
I know. FOIA. FOIA rhymes with...
Talk about the government letting you down.
Well, oh my gosh. Okay, I got to talk about this bill. It's a porn bill.
Oh, gosh.
And I kind of had a little field day with it when I had State Rep Greg Van Workum on. Josh Shriver of Oakland County has introduced a bill to ban pornography in the state. He says it leads to social decay. It's linked to human trafficking and it
Wait,
affects marriage.
Isn't there a U.S. Supreme Court ruling that says that pornography can't be, isn't? It's part of the First Amendment? I thought that was like the Hustler decision.
He says that
They made a movie about it.
90% of people younger than 18 have seen the material. It's killing our morality. If the bill is approved and signed by the governor, people could face up to 25 years in prison for distributing pornography.
Okay.
This is a state rep of Oakland County, Josh Shriver. He looks like he's like 12 or something. He looks really young.
Too young for porn.
Too young for porn.
Too young for porn. Yeah, poor guy. He's probably,
Yeah, it was the Hustler magazine versus Jerry Falwell. They made a movie about that with
Yeah,
what's his
he
name?
just wants it to
Woody
go to...
Harrelson was in it.
He wants it to go to probably get to the state Supreme Court, get his name out there and in whatever.
Yeah, I mean it was
Anybody can introduce a bill about anything in the legislature in Lansing, right? You could,
Right.
Yeah, okay. So that's probably what he's doing.
right.
Anyway, I laughed about it on the air. I'm sorry. I thought it was funny. You can't ban that.
I mean, I don't think that'll hold water. I mean, even with the
No.
conservative Supreme Court, I don't think that'll hold water.
I don't think so either. Jimmy Kimmel, I did not see the show. You can't watch it in Grand Rapids.
I watched it on YouTube.
You watched it on YouTube. What'd you think?
It was. I mean, he teared up at several points, which was
Sure.
very emotional. I think that he presented it in a way where you laughed, but you also felt like he was being genuine in saying, "Look, I never intended to mock a young man's death. That was
Right.
never the point." But it's very problematic when an administration, a sitting president, can exert this sort of power over a broadcasting network and leverage the FCC chair position in a way where it's inferring that the government will interfere with our speech because you can't take a joke about your own supporters. That's not the country that we're in. And so that was the overall message. It was a 28-minute introduction back to being on the air. So there was a lot to unpack. I encourage people to watch it because there's a lot of highs and a lot of lows. And I think that there's some really interesting things that are thought-provoking. And I never thought I would ever hear it, 30 years ago, like when I saw Kimmel in some of his early work. I never once thought for a million years that I would see him in this position and sort of be like this symbol of free speech.
Yeah, he's an old radio guy too.
is.
He's one of those old radio guys. That that you have to babysit in the morning.
Right.
Bless his heart, but he is.
Right.
He's a radio guy. Wow. I'll have to YouTube that. I'm trying to think about anything else going on.
Do we need anything else?
Sarah and I are going to. This is for people listening in the Tri-Cities. We're going to be participating in Bones About Town.
Oh, I'm so excited about this.
Which is a really fun event with Grand Haven Main Street. All the area businesses put skeletons in their windows and stuff, and they dress them up. We're going to be on Columbus Avenue in fashion-forward consignments, we're going to do 2 J's in a pod. So we'll have skeletons and microphones, and we'll set that all up, and people can vote.
I'm going to have to find a ponytail that fits a skeleton.
I know, I got to find a blonde wig, but we're going to need like a microphone, and we'll figure it all out. A little laptop, we'll figure it all out. But anyway, we're going to be participating in that. We're also on the 30th. That's Monday, right?
I think it's Tuesday.
I'm sorry. On Tuesday, we're hosting a forum in the city of Ferrysburg.
Yes, for the mayoral and city council candidates.
Yes, and you and I will be moderating that. So there you go.
Yeah,
there you
go. We are
go.
out and about.
We are out and about getting it done, and gosh, I don't feel well. All right, I'm going to go home and go to bed.
Yeah,
oh my
same.
God, I know you didn't get any sleep last night.
I did not.
Kids are doing okay.
Kids are doing okay. Yeah, we got everyone out on time, so now I can go collapse. Yeah.
Oh, it's just so busy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. Oh my gosh. All right, that's a wrap. This has been 2 J's in a pod.